Welcome to Kathy on the Couch, your podcast for everyday clinicians who sit with grief, trauma, and the hardest human experiences every day. You weren't meant to carry this alone, and this is a space for therapists who hold space for others and sometimes need a place to be held too. I am Kathy, and I am your EMDR consultant trainer and thanatologist, specializing in methods of death, dying, and bereavement. I created this podcast to support those who do the deep work, especially trauma and grief therapists and EMDR clinicians needing a soft place to land, who want real conversations, meaningful support, and a community where the hard questions are finally welcome. We also are thrilled to share and announce our Kathy on the Couch membership community, which is your home for grief and trauma consultation, professional growth, where you find a monthly consultation group. You'll find a monthly NBCC CE training. You'll get access to a course module and resource kits. You can just come here. So we hold space for those who hold it all. That's our mission, where we talk honestly about all clinical challenges in the business of being a healer through curriculum development and training and breaking the silence to lead and thrive in the field without losing ourselves in the process. So if you're looking to join for deeper connection, I invite you to join our membership community to help you learn and grow. Or if you're an EMDR therapist looking to be certified or a consultant, we have our program, EMDR University. Remember to give us a 5-star rating wherever you get your podcast. Now let's get comfortable and let's head on over to the couch.
Won't leave here. This is my
Oh,
17-year-old cat.
let me see him. I want to see the cat.
That's sweet.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love our cat. So this is just audio only. So there's no video.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Good to know.
So we just do it on Zoom, but I
Okay.
think it's relational and we can see each other, but it's audio.
Yeah.
It'll
Okay.
be uploaded. Let me give you a date. I just got organized. So let me.
The hardest part of it.
So I'm neurodivergent. I have ADHD and I went on some different medicine that's really helping.
Oh,
It's been like organizing.
yeah.
You will go on April 17th will be when this is published.
Oh, great. Oh, that's nice. Okay.
We'll give you a link and we'll give you some like hashtags to put on your social media
Yeah, please do.
and just
That's perfect. I'll promote that I'm presenting with what is it? EMDR, advanced EMDR with Mark's program. When I met Tony, he introduced me to Mark, and I'm presenting on the nest metaphor on the 17th. So I'll be able to name that.
Oh, yay.
Yeah.
My wife is actually currently learning EMDR from Mark. She's
Oh,
doing
how
his
nice.
basic training right now. Yeah.
Cool.
Actually, Kathy, I think I connected the two of you too for his grief. He was doing like a grief summit or something like that.
Oh, yeah. He never replied to me. I'm not sure what.
Yeah.
It took him a long time to reply to me. I'm just going to say.
No,
He's
he's like-
busy.
Yeah.
Keep reaching out, then it's not a denial.
No, I think when you have one brain, and that's how I experience life anyway.
Yeah.
My one brain can't handle everything that.
Yeah.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, that's good. All right. So we'll just start in relationally. So today our podcast is with Allison. I'll let Tony introduce you, Allison. We're so happy to have you here.
I met Allison at the EMDRIA conference last year, and actually I couldn't make it to Allison's presentation. I really wanted to go, and I think I chose someone else's presentation because there was another reason. Like I think we were going to try to work together or something. So I was curious what they had to say. But I had a friend who went to Allison's, actually Becca, who's been on our podcast before, went to Allison's, and I really want you both to connect.
Oh, that's what she was talking about.
Yeah, the nest metaphor. So we got in touch over the app and we met at Rebecca Case's massage chairs or something like that. and had a nice conversation for 5 or 10 minutes before we had to go off. And we've been just connected on the internet since then. I've been just watching her do all these cool somatic trainings, and she's starting to do more with the nest metaphor. I think it's a really beautiful way to think about creating a space to hold something. You're going to explain it more today, but I just think it's really beautiful. And it's just another thing as a nature-based person, like it makes a lot of sense to me. A creative person makes a lot of sense to me. And I think that there's just a lot of really neat knowledge that you're carrying inside you that I want the listeners to be aware of and know more about. So I'm just really happy. And you're a nice person. So I'm happy to have you here on our podcast.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here and to spend more time with the both of you and explore this more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so this is just a relation-based podcast. So we'll just let you start with your story. You said a lot of really good things before we recorded, so feel free to repeat whatever resonates and just give us all the details.
I live in Indiana. I'm from Indiana. I left Indiana for a period of time, as most people do. I moved to Denver, and I ended up getting my undergrad actually is from Indiana University, and I was a rec major. So I played in the woods for 4 years, and I took water ecology, and I really loved being outside. Really wanted to bring that into whatever I was going to do as an adult, and I ended up getting a social work degree. And part of my degree was in animal assisted social work. And so I really started to understand not just like how nature creates all these metaphors and all these ways to feel safe, but also then bridged that to how animals help us feel safe and the human animal bond. And I spent a number of years working with kids in foster care and building shelter dog programs, and residential kids would come and hang out with these shelter dogs and build empathy and start to find new predictions. And I think that was such a neat thing to start to stay curious to, is that something was changing. And my therapy dog and I worked together for about 7 years. And when he retired, I had moved back to Indiana at that point and had this like identity crisis of, who am I as a therapist? And I had just joined a group practice, and my practice owner was like, we should all learn EMDR. I was like, all right, let's learn EMDR. That was fine, but it hadn't really fully clicked for me. I was missing something in it. I did EMDR, and in some ways it was working, but it felt very clunky. It felt very confusing to me. And ultimately, I stopped doing it, which is such a funny kind of weird arc because now I'm an EMDR trainer. But I put EMDR down for a little while. In that tiny little piece of time, I learned somatic experiencing. And so as I was in that 3-year program, I started to understand what was missing in my understanding of EMDR. And it was really the body, listening to the body, letting the body tell the story, not just the cognitive brain. And all these pieces started clicking. And I started to be very curious on, I wonder what it would be like now to start to bring in some EMDR. And so I got consultation. And by the time my full 3-year program was done, I was fully integrating EMDR and somatic experiencing into this comprehensive kind of experience. And at the same time, starting to understand that more of like the neurobiology of why working with animals was so effective, why those kiddos that I was working with who had so much maladaptive kind of yuck stored and often predicted these bad things were going to happen because that was their story, started to notice something was changing, right? That when they were spending time with Marley, they started to be able to say, oh, a living being cares about me. People will show up. And it started to really click as we brought all of those pieces together, that working with animals creates enough safety in the body for the brain to offer new predictions. And that's what we're really doing in EMDR and somatic experiencing, is slowing things down and offering new options because we're safe now, or at the very least in the moment. And so it's just like such a fun kind of experience to say, oh, all these 3 things I've been learning and doing over the last 15, 20 years, how it all just came together in such a really, I don't know, implicit way, where I didn't anticipate when I did each of those things, it was going to build into that they all really so nicely fit together in the healing process.
I really like that the somatic piece brought you back, because one thing I noticed, like, we're all consultants here. So like we all work with people that have learned EMDR that are trying to do it better. And like a big piece that's missed, especially from people that learned EMDR a while ago,
Mm.
is that body piece. Like, it's all about up here, cognitive interweave.
Yeah.
Everything is an interweave if it helps bring a person out of stuckness. And sorry, my cat's over there destroying something.
Do you need to go get it?
No, I think I know what it is. It's not
Okay.
important. I wonder if that's influencing how the people are learning EMDR from you, because
Mhm.
I'm noticing actually that's happening on a pretty big level across the board with more recent EMDR trainers, like people that have come up in the last 10 years. I feel are bringing that piece in because it's where we target on the body.
Exactly.
And somehow that was missed along the way. I think probably just because of the whole CBT influence at the time.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's making a big difference in the training that's happening and the type of therapists that are coming out. Not to discredit certain trainers, but there's still people that teach that old way. And I see the people that are coming from those getting burned out much faster, EMDR therapists, like you were in your story.
Yeah, I was like, what? There was just something that was so blatantly not happening in my sessions. And it was very confusing to me. And I do think that I interweave the body in every phase of EMDR. And that's really what part of this thing I've created allows us to stay curious to is at the moment of meeting a client, how do we start tracking what story their body has been holding on to so tightly? And we say in EMDR, we're going to track clients, but we don't really teach that. And it's something that is so important. And when we can slow, I find that, and then when we move into phase 2 and the importance of doing phase 2 and phase 1 kind of simultaneously and teaching titration and pendulation so that the body doesn't continue to get stuck in those old patterns when they're telling the story or giving history. The last thing I want is my client to have to feel like, oh, I have to name these things and I'm going to do it in this way where I've already learned how to disconnect from it. And so as I'm learning your history and staying curious to what's this story the body's been holding on to, what did we learn? What was adaptive to keep you frozen or to be in this hypervigilant state? If we can teach the body how to start to orient to the safety of it, the very least this relationship, this moment we're in, this cat that's next to us, right? Then we can start to already explore that. And so I think that when we're staying curious to not just the story the brain is telling, but I'll often say, you know, if it's okay in our sessions and this work that I'm inviting us into, we're going to also hear the story that the body's been holding on to. And sometimes that story is different. Sometimes the body isn't so caught up to where we actually are right now. And we want to stay really curious to that. And then that leads into those more somatic interweaves.
I have so many questions. I want to make sure and cover sort of the goods on the nest metaphor. So I want to talk about that. I want to talk about this idea of pendulation. So I'd like your just vocabulary around that. We hear that a lot and we assume people know about what that is. So I've actually had to do my own research and I'm finding that people have very different kind of vocabulary around that. And then just, I want to echo what you guys are saying in regards to the body, because when I see people and I say, where is that in your body? Their face is like, what are you talking about? And so I say thought, body, emotion channel is the way that I say it. And they're like, I don't have. And so it's like that. You're right. You guys are right. That's the whole missing piece. You feel free to respond however you feel led. I'd just like to hear more about that. Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks for naming that. Oh, go ahead, Tony.
I just want to follow up on just one thing for Kathy. Like I've even noticed a difference when if I'm targeting with someone, if I don't, instead of going down image, thought, body sensation, if I start from whatever the target is and I just say, what are you noticing in your body with that? Sensations, emotions, when you plug them together, just even in that one comment, it helps people to be able to not have to deal with trying to figure out the difference. Like they already hear from you that they're connected.
Yeah, that these are all kind of living together and we can start to stay curious to them. Yeah. And I think I started thinking through, because I think I came from a rec background and learning throughout my career the importance of metaphor and nature and animals. And when I was working with my therapy animals, it was so easy, much easier for children to be able to name what was happening with the therapy animal than to themselves, right? Because there's more distance, there's less vulnerability when you can put an experience through the lens of something else. It's why children's stories are written with animal characters, right? Because you can teach emotion, vulnerability, all these things through the lens of animals, and it's safer. And so when I started to conceptualize hard trauma, because that's what I was seeing so much of in my work, I started to do that through kind of these nests that I was seeing in the trees when I was hiking or driving down the highway. And my kids and I used to play this game when they were really little. And it was winter and we're looking out the window and we were driving to find the nests in the trees because I thought that was so fun and cool to do. And so you can find all these, especially when there's no leaves on the trees. If you look, you can see the nests that are still there. And some of those nests are really small and tiny. And some of, those nests are these huge eagle nests way up high in the sky. And it was this fun game. And I started to think about my clients and what was the nest of their lives? Where was it placed? What were the resources around it? How did it feel to land in those nests throughout their lives? And what did they learn about themselves, about the world, through those experiences? And I started looking at imagery of nature and learning more about birds and how birds nest and why they put their nests in different places. And it all just started to come together in this way where we grow up and we have all these different nests of our lives, right? We have our womb nest where we begin even at the moment of conception. We have our early home nests. Sometimes there's multiple early home nests due to divorce or moving, or our family is in the military, or sometimes we don't even have a secure home nest because we're unhoused. And then we have the modern nest that we've created today. And ideally, what we're always looking towards is a future nest where we can really flourish. And so that's how the nest metaphor was born. And as I was exploring all of this, it really just started to come into like this idea around what again did the body learn? What were the invitations that we were handed in those nests that we held on to, whether or not we really needed to? And how are we still holding them in the nest that we make today? So many of my clients were like living in completely different places, but had built the same nest they grew up in this very unconscious way. And it's, what do you think as you explore that? Something I'll ask is, as you notice the nest you're in today, does it feel like there's anything woven into that nest from the past that doesn't need to be there anymore? And because they can start to distance themselves from their own experience, it's like I'm inviting them to watch their life through the eyes of nature. And that's more compassionate. That's less judgmental. And it's at a distance where they can keep it as far away as needed. And if we've accidentally, completely unconsciously made our nest in the same way as our families, because that's traditionally what we do, we can start to see which sticks we can take out, or that we're in a completely new tree that we never even knew because our body hadn't caught up to that yet. And so the nest metaphor allows for clients, and I think clinicians, to conceptualize clients' lives in a less judgmental and a more curious and vulnerable way. And it lets clients explore each of those nests, what they learned about themselves, how their nervous system responded. And through all of that, I'm teaching these exercises, right? I'm teaching how to distance. I'm teaching how to use pendulation or shifting from one experience back to where we are. And that pendulation is a really interesting word. And I hear you saying, Kathy, everyone has a different name, a different definition of it. And in the somatic experiencing world, pendulation is the automatic shift, movement back and forth that happens in the rhythm of life. And that our rhythm of life is designed to have expansion and constriction, right? We're designed to go in and out of these states with a natural exploration of that.
So I want to share what I'm thinking with you about this. Is there's a grief therapy proposal, a dual process model of coping by Stroebe and Schut. And so it's the restoration model on one side and then the loss model on the other side. So from the grief perspective, we can go into loss, and then we can go into restoration, which I'm equating with like adaptive or the loss. And what happens when, so my specific piece is like yearning. Yearning is an attachment desire, right? And so how do we, with the pathology and the DSM in 2022, now it's prolonged grief disorder, my mission, what I'm developing is a way we can say, when can that be adaptive? So George Bonanno is like a researcher that talks about resilience and how can we embody that restoration part without making it pathological? And then when does it land in loss? Can it visit but not be a pathology? And then training therapists about, I guess what you're saying is the pendulation, emotional experiencing. So it's just been very fascinating for me.
Yeah.
Always looking for that piece, but I love that. It was just making so much sense. So I was making that connection as you were sharing. I love to hear about people talking about pendulation and those kinds of things.
Yeah. I love that. And I think even going back to that grief piece, what's that impact as we experience grief in our different nests? I talk about sometimes when we're thinking about shock trauma, it's like our nest of our life doesn't fit anymore. It's like there was a big shakeup. And when I come back, something has changed.
Yeah.
And I recently lost my mom. She passed away in December. And I can feel that my nest of my life is dramatically different. And so I do that pendulation, that there's something that has shifted and needs to be rebuilt in some way in my nest right now. And I know that there's some soft padding that I can lean into. I have my resources that I can try and find to support being in the nest in a way that makes it still feel stable, even when things are so hard. And so as you were talking, that's what I was noticing, is that pendulation, especially when we're working on through grief, of how challenging that can be and how we need to be able to find those anchors. I did that before this meeting. I woke up with a lot of just yuck in my body. And I was like, gosh, I cannot go into this podcast like feeling this way. It's not going to go well. And I'm lucky enough to have a really nice park down the road from me. And so I just spent 20 minutes and I took my shoes off and I put my feet in the grass and I walked. And I was walking by the creek and I saw a couple snakes, and I'm someone who loves snakes. Like my neuroception is, ooh, curious, not like afraid and danger. I'm like, oh, I wonder what kind of snake that is. Oh, it's going to go in the creek. And now it's going under this rock. And I just watched and observed. And to me, that's really fun and cool. And I was like, oh yeah, this is my resource. This makes me feel like my nest is okay to be in.
Yeah. The thing that I'm really connecting with as you're talking about the nest is how, first of all, useful it is for people to have compassion and acceptance for what was available to build that nest.
Yeah.
The litter on the ground, that I'm not an ornithologist, so I don't know much about nests, but like the litter that was on the ground that the bird creatively used to build the nest, and maybe having some acceptance for that, but also how as a trauma therapist, I'm coming before doing trauma therapy, being an addiction focused therapist, how thinking about how those things develop as a way for people to make it. Like those things are part of a person's nest. Maybe they serve a purpose. So I'm curious, like how often you see just having this as a metaphor even helps people make some changes in their life. Maybe are they able to, through acceptance, maybe even before you do phase 3 and 4 trauma therapy, start to make some really important changes.
Yeah, thanks for naming that. I actually use a picture of a nest with cigarette butts in it as part of the work that I do and as I train or as I'm exploring things with clients, because that was adaptive for that bird, right? Cigarette butts are actually very soft. They can stick in a lot of places. And I asked that question, is this adaptive or maladaptive? And that bird, right, was just using their resources. Did that create challenge for the little being living in that nest? For sure. Carcinogens, their shell didn't get as tight, as well formed. And so there's going to be health issues there. That it brings into so much awareness of the ACEs study, of environmental racism, of when we live in food deserts, of how industry picks environments to build in because they're taking advantage of disadvantaged populations. And as a social worker, and so I was going into communities who were being disenfranchised by the government and by agencies. If you are ever in Denver and you drive down I-70, the Purina plant is there. And right underneath that Purina plant is a neighborhood. And so what you're noticing is really that phase 2 preparation, Tony, right? As we explore the nests of our lives, how they've been built, what we've learned about ourselves, how we built our nest today. What I'm hoping to start to invite clients to do is find, I'll name it like the soft padding of life today. How are we helping give yourself something to cozy into? A softness that your body can start to learn to yield. Because so often our clients don't know how to do that. We don't always know how to do that. And so that's, I find, where the somatic work comes in so nicely. I think EMDR for me, when I learned it, was all about squeeze the lemon, get all the yuck out, pay so much attention to the maladaptive. And somatic experiencing taught me find the comfort, find the anchors. And what I started exploring, putting these together, I started to realize how easy it is for my clients to notice the uncomfortable, right? I'll often say it's yelling at you, pay attention. I can hear you. I know something bad is happening inside. When and how do we help ourselves and our clients hear the whisper or feel our feet in the grass? And I think so much of having a nest that supports you is being able to turn towards the comfort, to have more capacity for things to be okay. And so many of my clients, at the very least, it's not safe to be safe. It's not okay to be okay. And if there's one thing that I think is most important, even if we never squeeze the lemon, is to help grow capacity to be comfortable. And so to me, that's an essential part of phase 2. It's an essential part of building a nest that you can actually flourish and thrive in later in life. And if we can't do that, if it's not okay to be okay, if we can't turn towards comfort, it's going to be really hard to do a phase 5. It's going to be very challenging to do a clear body scan, because those will ultimately be cues of danger. And so we're trying to expand, or that's something I really try to do. And I teach a lot of my consultees ways to explore that. And sometimes that's enough. Sometimes that's really what the client needs for a while, is just to know, oh, comfort has always been here.
I feel like I'm trying to do a lot of times in phase 2 is not try to create something new for a client. Say we're just doing calm, safe place. Let's say we just only are doing that. We're not trying to teach them how to experience that. We're trying to help enhance or bring up that quality that maybe they never had the conditions to learn how to do, but from themselves. So whatever quality you're trying to help enhance or bring up or have a person experience in phase 2 to prepare for doing deeper work, it's all stuff that's going to be inherent with them anyway. And you're just trying to have them find a way to start to experience that authentically.
Right, exactly. And what a gift to show clients. And again, I'll keep coming back to ourselves, because it's hard to be a therapist in this world right now. It is heavy. And it's such a gift to remind ourselves we have everything we already need inside. Again, that's another tenet of my somatic experiencing training, is we have everything we need inside to heal. Every living being does. And I feel like it's a gift to be able to help our clients start to notice that within themselves, to start to re-emerge and find where those little tendrils are, and make those the louder experiences inside, because they can.
But isn't that weird that like people miss that in their EMDR training? Because I remember that from mine. It's like the body heals itself thing. Just trying to create the conditions for the body to do what it knows how to do to help things adapt, to help things heal. Just if you cut your finger, like everyone I think uses that same, maybe not everybody, but I've heard lots of people use that same metaphor. When you cut your finger, The Band-Aid doesn't do the healing. The Band-Aid creates the conditions for the body to do what it's meant to do. And when it creates a scab, if there's dirt inside, the body's still going to try to heal itself, but that creates the pain even more if there's things getting in the way. So it's funny. I love that your work is bringing people back to that part. And I think that's somehow just missed in a lot of people's trauma trainings for whatever reason. But it's a really important part. And that's what makes, for me anyway, doing this work really fun because I don't have to feel in charge of helping the healing happen.
Yeah.
I just have to create the right conditions and trust the person's body to do
Yes.
how to do inherently.
Right. Thank you for naming that, because to me, knowing that the client has everything they need inside to heal and me being a curious observer of that, a witness of it, somebody who's just going to ask what happens next as you notice that, it takes the pressure off of me as the therapist to feel like I'm the one who's going to be the change agent here. I just need to know that I'm grounded, that I've created, yeah, what you're saying, like these conditions where it's safe enough for this client to start to trust themselves again, to listen to that intuitive voice. And the more we can, I think, support that in that phase 2, the easier and smoother it is when we move to reprocessing phases.
Yeah. And the whole safety piece, that goes back to the body feeling safe. That goes back to neuroception and co-regulation,
Yep.
which I know is like a metaphor now, but with the whole polyvagal shift, we're still figuring that out.
Yeah.
But I think about that all the time, and just how we create safety and trust really influences what that person's body is able to do. And I think that this is a nice bridge to hear more about the animal-human relationship, because I know as my cat's sitting here next to me, how I feel with its nervous system.
Yeah.
Right? Is there anything that you feel is important to bring into the conversation about that?
Oh, yeah. I always say my side goal in life is to teach other clinicians the importance of the human animal bond and how we can start to bring in that conversation. So many of our clients have animals. They have companion animals that are living with them every moment of every day. But often we're not talking about how when we can create an environment for our animals to feel safe, right? People will talk about the human animal bond and say it's so unconditional. That's not accurate, right? Our animals will co-regulate us when they're safe, when their neurobiology is safe, when they can be attuned to the environment that's telling them they're loved, they're appreciated, that they're really sentient beings. But if I can start to explore with my clients the animals that have been in their lives, oftentimes those are the living beings that they've had most trust with. Those are the living beings that they've turned to in terms of to get support, to be listened to be fully seen in their best self. And when we can slow that down and find the interoceptive experience of that, gosh, when you get home, I was joking around. I presented at the EMDRIA conference a couple of years ago on the human animal bond. And I said in the beginning, when I get home from this conference in DC, the living being that's going to be most excited to see me is not necessarily going to be my husband. It's probably not going to be my kids. It's going to be my dog, right? Harry is going to be no matter what time I get home, whether it's early in the morning, whether it's midday, he is going to be the most excited living being, right? That runs up to me, that's wagging his tail, that's going to greet me at the door. And I could either go in and be like, hey, Harry, and keep going, or I could put my bags down and pause and really receive that. And if I can really receive that love, we already know based on science that there's going to be a physiological shift there, right? Oxytocin is going to be released. My blood pressure is going to go down. My heart rate is going to be settled. I'm going to be in that ventral state. We have so much research on it. And so if I can start to teach my clients how to start to tune into their own companion animals, how to feel that bi-directional reciprocal relationship in a new way, then what we're teaching is safety. What we're teaching the body is that moment to moment we can turn to our animals and see Are we safe or not? Because animals are also going to not override their system. If there's something outside, they're going to check it out. If my clients are having a panic attack and I say, go ahead and just turn towards your animal, what are they doing? And they're like, they're sleeping. Yeah, what does that tell you? It's safe. And as you notice your dog is safe right next to you, is it okay to tune into that?
I have to just interject here on something.
Yeah.
So we found a cat. We were on a walk, and my husband was coming up with this cat. And I had been raised with cats, but I thought, oh, I have allergies. Oh my God. She came up and she laid right on my chest. I was like, oh, I love you. That was just this like bond. And I was like, oh my God, like almost sacred. And so it was just that idea of I'm letting you, like, you're letting me in. And then she purred, and I'm like, oh, I'm done.
And that's like the safe relationship, right? Our animals provide this opportunity to be in a really safe, vulnerable relationship. And when we can start to build adaptive information from that, what we get to do is then bridge it to other living beings, because our brain and body, again, has this prediction that another living being cares. And that's why I want my clients to slow down in their interactions with their animals, because we're building interoceptive awareness. We're building that map from the bottom up. And then we know when we're in those states, we're going to have more adaptive thinking about ourselves. It's going to allow us to have the ability to really orient to other things that are positive or comfortable in our experience. And so I find that the human animal bond can be for so many, not all people, right? Some animals, they're not a source of safety for some people. Animals, right, on the flip side, are often used against children and women and other family members due to animal abuse and the cycle of what can be named as link violence, which is the link between animal abuse, domestic violence, child abuse, and elder abuse. If one living being in a home is being harmed, the likelihood that another living being in a home is being harmed. And animals are often used as control, as ways to keep people in line.
That's one of the indicators of sociology.
Yeah, ways to threaten. So it's very much a part of the domestic violence wheel. But for so many people, their animals are right there offering them exactly what they need, which is to feel seen, heard, witnessed. And the importance of that is that we then give that back to our animals, because that bi-directional relationship of I can give what they need and they can give what I need is truly what can promote that oxytocin. It's what can promote prosocial experiences. It's what teaches us how to be in relationship with other living beings, because every relationship is bi-directional. And so
where people can find you and information about this, the nest and the animal therapy.
Yeah, I want to say I wish I was better at updating my website, but you can go to my website. I have a mailing list. I've been trying to do more newsletters. I will have a number of trainings that are coming up that are specific to the nest or embedded in larger trainings. In April, for Advanced EMDR Institute, I'm doing a 3-hour nest metaphor. In May, I'm doing a 15-hour somatic EMDR training that will include the nest fully in that through the Trauma Therapist Institute, which I'm really excited for, and hopefully more to come. It's really been a big passion of mine to help clients and other clinicians start to conceptualize what's happening, what we're seeing, what people are going through in a justice-oriented framework that allows us to start to stay curious to not just how are people surviving, right, which is how they often find us, but what's going to help our clients flourish in life, because we all deserve to flourish. And when we can start to create a future nest that offers new opportunities, right, about ourselves, about other people in the world, that includes, I can feel comfortable. I can find and know that I have everything inside to heal. What a difference that can make. So,
Tony, I'll let you any closing remarks or anything you'd like to add before we end our Friday.
But I really like how you have emphasized like how the ability to have needs met by an animal and then notice, oh, I'm taking care of this person can help a person just feel differently about themselves. I've noticed that in nature in other ways, like when people interact with animals in nature, how just from one interaction you can experience compassion and what difference that can make for everything else. Like that young child that never got compassion, right? That's still there in that body. So I
Exactly.
really like that. And
I'm
I don't
glad.
know, if you want to come back for a part two, I think it'd be really fun.
I'm open to that. Yeah.
Sure, I
Yeah.
would love to. I feel like I could talk about I've been so fortunate in what I've been able to do is to weave these three things in that I love so much, the human animal bond, nature, and healing. And so I'm always open to continue to talk.
Thank you for coming. We will, it looks like we'll be doing a follow-up. I'll get those details out to you. Tell people what your website is so they can find you.
Yeah, it's empower, EMPOWER healing.com. Or in the simplest ways, you can reach out to me at Allison with one L at AllisonLeslie.com, and I'll send you that link as well. So thank you so much.
So join our mailing list, visit our website, follow her to the training. Super rich conversation. I just had to sit here and soak it up today. So
Yeah.
thank you so much. And we
Thank you
will
all
see
so
you
much.
next time. Take care.
Sounds great. Bye.
We hope today's conversation has inspired you, sparked new ideas, and offered you practical tools you can bring into your own practice, whether you're just starting out in the mental health field or you are a seasoned clinician. We're grateful to have you as part of our growing community, and Rewired 360 is here to companion you along your clinical career path. From the moment you begin your professional journey, we offer comprehensive support and resources that guide you at every stage. So our curriculum is designed to fill the gaps often found in the marketplace, and this information shared on this podcast reflects perspectives and experiences of our guest hosts. It's not intended to substitute for professional consultation, supervision, or individual guidance. If you have questions about how to apply any of the concepts, we encourage you to consult with your clinical supervisor, consultant, or licensing board. As always, follow those research-based protocols and best practices in your work. Until next time, keep connecting, keep learning, and keep rewiring for success. Take care.